Thank you all for inviting me here. I'm Piyush Jain. I work with Agilus Diagnostics. We were earlier called SRL. Last month we rebranded, and it's a very old brand. It's a 28-year-old brand, and there are times when we see a brand change their name, and I think this is one of the larger ones which have stayed there for 28 years and then changed their name. We did that last month, and I want to talk about customer experience and customer retention. I do manage a portfolio in digital and marketing, and I would just want to start with a little bit of a personal experience. So I am a very recent parent. I became a dad a month ago, and a month ago I was in Calcutta, and there was this test which we were doing, right? And this is called the metabolic screening test. I don't know if you're aware of this test. Usually for kids, this is done, and this is done between the 3rd and the 10th day of the birth, and usually most people get it done in the hospital itself. But because we moved out of the hospital on the second day itself, we thought that we will do this at home and we'll call a phlebo at home, right? And I work in a diagnostic company, and I know who's coming to my place to do the test. But so what happened is there are two people who came, and there are usually when you book a test, there is only one phlebo which comes in. But for this test, there were two people who came, and they set up the entire thing, and then they said, okay, now you should bring the baby out, right? And we got the baby. It was just 3 days old, so I'm a first-time parent, so did not know what to do with the baby any which way, so right? So very confused, very anxious, and the process is that you would basically prick the heel of the baby, and then you would squeeze the heel to get the blood drop on a paper which would have these 5 different spots. The process sounded very scary to me, right, as a parent, and I thought that would we be able to do this, and how would the baby react to it? In the hospital, of course, they take the baby and they get this test done and they bring the baby back to you, and so you don't know how this test was done and how much did your baby cry there, right? So at home, of course, when you do this, you're able to witness the entire thing, right? And so it is very, very difficult for any parent to go through. So these two gentlemen came in, the phlebos came in, and they said that, sir, इसमें बच्चा रोएगा, right? तो मैंने बोला okay, and he said कि लेकिन वो इसलिए नहीं रोएगा कि उसको दर्द हो रहा है, वो इसलिए रोएगा क्योंकि इसको time लगेगा. So because they have very little blood, we will have to squeeze the blood. It'll take time. So it'll usually take about 3-4 minutes for the blood to come. And because the baby is not used to getting anything done for 3-4 minutes, it will start crying. They will start crying. And so he said that बाकी and मैंने ये process कुछ 5,000 बार किया है. So therefore I'm an expert in this. I know how this is done. So आप बराबर में बैठ जाइए, टेंशन मत लीजिए, मैं कर लूँगा अपना काम. And he started the process. My wife was also standing there. The moment he touched the heel and pricked the heel, my wife was like almost into tears, and it was showing on her face. I had to like console her that, no, don't worry. At this point, there's just a prick which has happened. And this continued for about 3 minutes. The process happened. The baby did cry. And, they packed up. They did the whole test. They were able to take the sample. They gave the report. The baby is absolutely fine. And, I got a very personal experience from all of this that, when you are a parent and when you are anxious as a customer, that's when, even the most loyal customers I work there. So even the most loyal customers would be able to see their true colors of, are they really loyal, and how do you really manage that kind of a situation? I think in this case, there are a couple of learnings that were there, right? This person set the expectation right in front, right? He said that the baby will cry. He didn't lie. He didn't say the baby will not cry. He said the expectation is absolutely correct, that the baby will cry. And he also said reassuringly that the baby will cry because of this so-and-so reason. And he then gave his credentials that I have done this so many times. That gave me a lot of confidence. So I think these are things which would make a very good experience for someone. And I think this is one of the stories that I like, because it happened with me, and I know the whole scenario around it. And I feel that for an anxious customer, it is always, in a situation where the customer is not anxious and you really want to never reach that level, it's always good to have this mantra that you set the expectations right, you mention something which you can really follow sustainably, like what Anamika said. Sustainability is very important. So you should make a promise which you can sustainably deliver to, and then you should obviously have the expertise to do this, right? And the lab behind and the processes behind should have the process and the expertise to be able to deliver the results to you, right? So all of that is hygiene. However, I think this part of empathy is something which is very important. So I want to talk about other areas also, and I would want to talk about some of the things that we are doing as a diagnostic company to, create a better experience for customers, and of course, we want to retain all our customers as well. And this is a very, as a standard structure, you have a purchase, you have one purchase or one test done with us, and then if you've had a great experience, then you're most likely going to try it again, or you would refer somebody else. Then you would become probably loyal, and then it's hard for you to go to some other company unless you're able to see that the promise is still not, it's not delivering to the same level which you started off with, or you find something which is much better, right? The reverse is also true. It's a vicious cycle. You buy something, you had a bad experience, you immediately become a detractor. If you're not very agitated, then you'll probably not go on social media to talk about it. But of course, you would never buy the product again, unless you're in a monopoly. Like for example, I had a very bad experience with Make My Trip one time, but I still use it because because there are a lot of, there's a different angle to it. There's a lot of players in the market, but I still use it to check which flight is going. Of course, somebody else books it for me. I don't book it on Make My Trip, but I still use it to know which flight, where, what time, that kind of information. And of course, there are customers who would have bad experience even in the same industry as I am. Like if you have bought a certain product, like for example, a report, you would definitely come and ask for a report. And Anamika was talking about an experience of how the report went through with a series of 6 messages which came over a period of time. Finally, a report came on WhatsApp as well. I think that is a very good experience because then you're not really asking for it. You already anticipate that when you've done a test, you would ask for a report. And at least for that, you shouldn't call me. Because if you have to call me for that, then you're not really creating a good experience for me, right? I also want to talk about the precariousness of the industry that we operate in, and how it is different from, say, for example, an e-commerce industry, right? So, and these are real challenges, right? So, for example, in an e-commerce industry, when a packet of groceries or any box which you've delivered, or a phone box that you delivered, all you have to do is get that shipment to your doorstep. You open the door, and it is also possible that you don't open the door, somebody else opens the door, or it's just left at the door, or your help opens the door. You basically do not interact with the delivery person in most cases. But in the business that we are, you are most likely going to sit with the phlebotomist probably on the same sofa, or on the sofa on the side, and he's gonna touch you, draw blood from your veins, right? So it is a very, very personal experience, right? So therefore, the amount of rigor that we have to go through to find the right people for us is a lot. An average phlebotomist which works with Agilus is about 6-7 years of experience, right? That means on an average, if they would have done 20 tests a day, they would have done 5,000-6,000 tests over their entire tenure. Usually, phlebotomists over a period of time, 10-12 years of experience, they open their own centers, and that's when they leave. But average experience is about 6-7 years. But then that kind of expertise is needed to be able to, have the same experience for all customers. And also, today, there is a lot of competition from a lot of different kind of channels. Earlier, we were only us, Dr. Lal, Metropolis, Thyrocare, 3-4 companies. Today, there are 15 other digital companies in the space, right? And there is this very interesting thing which has come, if you think about, is a halo effect of one channel on the other. So just because somebody has a great app, a great UX, and a great UI, or maybe, a very interesting or very funky set of messages which come your way, that doesn't really mean that they may also have a lab behind it, or they may have the processes which would guarantee accuracy behind it. And it's true not just for our industry, we all order food on Swiggy, right? Uh, but we order food from a big restaurant. We also order food from what is known as dark kitchens, right? Which is, you would probably never go to those places if you were to dine in there, right? But because the experience is great. On Swiggy itself, the experience is great. You feel that, you are ordering food from Swiggy rather than ordering a paratha from a gully which is next to a business park, which you would probably never step into, right? And that's the reality with the industry that we are dealing with, that one channel or one set of good experience can create that kind of a halo effect. Of course, the reverse is also true. If you create one set of bad experience, if a large company, you hear about them and you just open their app and it crashes, you would say, no, it doesn't work. Your app doesn't work, so maybe nothing works for you. But having said that, I think therefore it is important for us to focus on each of these different channels, because today's customer is actually, and it's happening, that's a consumer behavior. Most customers are, because that's the fastest way to access information. I would find it difficult to do a market research to figure out who has the largest number of centers, who has the biggest labs, who has got the maximum number of NABL certifications. That's hard to figure, right? Easiest thing is to Google the website, go there and see how's the experience. If that looks slick, then you are there. If you're not there, then, and that's easy also. If you now think it from a positive perspective, it's very easy to woo the same customer. If you have the right processes, then this set of things is just at the, these are the lowest hanging fruits. Of course, if the tech companies can do it, then of course larger companies should also be able to do this. And therefore, we are working on a lot of different projects on digitization, on trying to make these things and processes seamless for everyone. But the link between customer experience and customer retention is very apt, very clear. I don't think that needs more discussion. I think the elements which would make a very good customer experience is something that I would want to talk about. That how do you get a great customer experience in the first place? So we did a lot of, working on a couple of projects right now. And so one of these projects is, you may have heard about, these packages which are sold in the market. So these are custom created, these are standard packages created. Every organization would have 50, 100, maybe 200, 400 packages that they would have created. And they would say that, okay, this is the right package for you as an individual. However, that's not true, because they've classified or made different segments of packages. They may be true for you. They may, and because there are a large number of segments, you may kind of fit into one of those subsections. But the best way would be that if someone creates a package on the fly for you per se, and that can be only if they have some information about you, which is, we do about 3.5 crore tests a year, and we have about 70% repeat tests. So 70% customers come back to us who are already our customers. So we have that information, and what we're doing is that we're using that information to find out, and it's almost like making a pizza, right? A pizza has a standard base, and then there are toppings, right? So there are some tests which you would anyways give to anyone, right? Because of the age, because of the city that they're living into it. But there are some things which are very, very dependent on the kind of the person that you are, or the kind of, or your last lipid profile ratings, or your last, blood sugar values. So because of that, there are some tests that's recommended for you, but then there's a base test which should add it on top of it. So we're building an engine where, there's a base test, set of tests, and then there are tests which are added because of you as a profile, and that can be given to you at a discounted rate so that you can buy and use it. But I would just want to keep it open for any questions if you have for me. All right, I'm at time. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Another topic here, which is based on conversational AI and chatbots enhancing your customers'